Today I'm going to show you how to use a wooden jig to create a paracord bracelet. We're going to be using a purple paracord for Month of the Military Child and a 3/8 inch purple buckle that is 1 inch long. There'll be times where your teacher will use a lighter to melt the paracord. It's made out of nylon, and then so I'll heat it up till it starts to melt. I don't want to set it on fire. And then I just use a pair of needle nose pliers to squish it flat, and it gives you a nice flat end to work with. So that'll happen from time to time, but your teacher will be using that, not you. You will need scissors and from time to time a pair of needle nose pliers. The ruler is just to start off with. You need to figure out how long a paracord you're going to need. And so I just take a piece of paracord, or you could use a flexible measuring tape, but I want to get the circumference of my wrist, which is right there, and for me it's 7.5 inches. I'm going to then add 1 inch to that for 8.5, and I know that the buckle takes up an inch, but right now you're still growing, and adding those extra 2 inches is going to make it so that it's loose on your wrist instead of snug. So 8.5 inches means that I need 8.5 feet of paracord. And so I'd go ahead and I would cut that off from here and have my teacher, again, melt and crimp the end so it doesn't fray all over the place. Now, I have 8.5 feet of paracord. I no longer need that or that. I'm going to set the jig to 8.5, and I need to set up the buckle with the paracord in it. Now, I need to find the middle of the paracord, and so I just simply take the two ends, I hold them together, and I run my fingers along it, pulling it through until I get to the middle of it. And so this loop I need to get onto the female side of the buckle. Now, there's two ways to do this. The first way, most people find the easiest, if I've melted and crimped these, it's much easier to feed the ends through from underneath. And so I would feed the ends through like that, through the female side of the buckle. And I don't want the loops to get crisscrossed as I do this, and I want to work out any kinks that might show up. And then I would just simply take these two strands, push them through that loop, and pull down. Again, you don't want it tangled, you don't want it looped back on itself, and so you're going to work this out. And as you pull it tight, you're creating a nice little a cow hitch knot. And so it would look like that. And then you work your way back to make sure that the ends are still even, and this time they're definitely not. And so I would hold them even, and I would work my way forward. And then the challenge becomes loosening up this knot and then redoing it without the lines crisscrossing to get that cow hitch knot back. The other way to do it is, so when it was just single strands we went up from underneath, an easier way for some of you will be if you can get the loop itself. If you found the middle of the loop, the middle of the paracord, and you push this loop down from above. Now, in this case, we have a nice tool to help us out. I'm just going to use one of the beaks of the needle nose pliers and press that on through. There we go. And then, so if I'm pushing the loop through, I'm going down from above, and then I just have to loop this back over the top of the buckle and pull it snug. And I get that cow hitch knot really easily. But for some people, pushing the middle of the loop, the middle of the paracord through the buckle is hard, and so it's easier for them to go up from underneath and then create the loop and pull back. And again, I'm going to check to make sure that I'm in the center, and sure enough, I am. Okay, So at this point, I would turn this around. I'm going to take the female end and clip it to the jig right there. I'm going to take the male end, put it over here. And if it was a single strand, we came up from underneath on this side. We want to go down from above on this end over here. So we're wanting to go down from above right here. And then I'm going to try to keep the right side on the right side and the left side on the left side. Okay. Whoops. Now, there's a lot of videos out there showing this technique, but all of them use a single color rope. And they talk about how you take the right-hand side and you put it over the top, and then the left-hand side goes over, under, and through. And I get really lost because I can't see what's going on there. So I've gone ahead and I've created a two-color strand like this, so that we can see the colors interacting. And so it'll be easier to track. Now you're going to just be using a purple cord, so you don't have to worry about creating a two-color strand like this. But I wanted to show you the technique using two colors so you can see what's going on better. So I pull it snug. I've got the green side on my right, the yellow and white is on my left. The green side is going to zigzag back and forth along the top, and the yellow is going to zigzag back and forth underneath. So each time I take the right-hand side, I'm going to bring it over the top, but leave a little bit of a loop. Then the yellow goes over, under, and through onto the other side. And each time you want to pull the knot snug and kind of push it up. Now, this one is going down, and I need the green to go back over the top. And using two colors, it's a lot easier to see. But using one color, I'm going to show you some techniques in case you forget where you're at. But over, under, and through the other side. Each time you want to pull it snug with the same amount of force and push it towards the top. So green goes over, I leave a little loop. The yellow goes over, under, and through the other side. Each time the green is being forced downward, and so the one that is being forced downward, as opposed to right now the yellow is being forced upward, the one that's being forced downward is the one that comes across the top. Over, under, through, snug, and push it up. Again, it's being forced downward, so it's going over the top, and then over, under, through. And you're going to keep going, you're going to keep this pattern up over and over and over again. Each time trying to pull it with the same amount of force, it'll make those little side knots line up. Now, the reason I didn't want to show it to you on a single color is because it's really hard to see that when this one's going across the top, and this one's going over the top, and then under and through, and I just totally looped that. It was really difficult for me to tell what was going on with this series of knots. But over the top, over, under, through the other side. And it's being forced downward, so it's the one that's going to go over the top, and then over, under, through. And this series keeps going and going and going until it gets completely filled up. And so at this point, I'm going to switch to this one here, and on both of these, I just have enough room for one knot left. I have enough room for one knot, so I'm going to take it off the jig and show you. At this point, it's gotten a little bit crooked, but it's okay because we're going to cut some of this off anyways. This side is being forced down, so for this very last knot, I'm going to go. This one's going to go across, but I want to loosen up this cow hitch. So that with that last little teeny bit, I'm gonna wiggle this loose because I'm going to use this to finalize the ending. And so at this point, I'm going to do a few different things that are kind of strange. I'm going to take and I'm going to cut these off flush using the scissors. I'm going to leave about, I don't know, an inch and a half of paracord. And then I want to get these strands to come out from underneath. And so there's 7 little strands in paracord, and I'm going to cut all of these off. And it's going to make it so that my paracord, if I was in frame, okay, and so I do the same thing over here. I pull the strands up as far as I can get them, and then with my scissors I come through. If I had a helper, this would be great. There we go. Okay, so at this point, that cow hitch knot is a little loose, and I'm going to use that to pull these. Now I can push these flat. At this point, I would melt these and crimp them. You don't want to burn them because you don't want them to catch fire. But you want to melt them a little bit, and then I use my pliers to squish them flat. I melt the ends, and your teacher would do this. You don't want them to catch fire, you just want to melt the nylon, squish it flat, and then I'm going to reach up through this cow hitch knot right there, and I'm going to grab, I'm going to just grab one at a time. You could probably grab both, but I'm going to grab one at a time. And pull that on down through. So I'm going to go through and probably about 3 or 4 of these knots at once. Well, maybe one at a time would be easier. Once you've pulled one through, the other one tends to follow pretty quickly. So I'm going to pull that down through, and come on. Pull that down on through, and you're just going to keep pulling it down through probably 3 or 4 of these knots, and it's going to lay flush underneath, and then that's how you finish these up. You just keep pulling it down through these little loops until they're all gone. Okay, and so and at that point I would be completely flat, and I check to make sure that it still fits me. It would be like this. Okay, and there you go. Cobra hitch, Cobra knot, paracord bracelet, month of the military child.